to solve after learning yung mga different simplifying. So we already discussed the simplifying. Ang need nyo na lang dito ay paano siya, in other words, ay didiskartehan yung pagsosolve ng problem. Okay? And kasama doon yung how to solve. Tandaan ha, at least you have the list of the 8 fundamental identities. Kasi ay wala na tayong copy from the coming. Okay, so let's try. So yung letter A, for the self-assessment, tignan ko muna ang in-text. Ayan, for the in-text, for letter A, show that the following will give the value of 1. So lahat yan, 1 to 6, you just have to show if the right side is equal to 1. So that's one way of practicing the simplifying or solving identities, proving identities. So number 1, are we done with the steps in solving? Ito to mga ganito, simplifying expression. Done na tayo dito, na? When? Gwen, done na tayo sa simplifying. Winawala si Gwen. Class, are we done with the simplifying expression? Discussing this. Hindi pa? Are you sure? Na-check na tayo dito, di ba? Na-check na natin to. Binigay ko na tong assignment, di ba? Yes, yung true or false. Pero sa simplifying expression, hindi pa tayo done. Where's Gwen? Okay. So sige, so simplifying tayo. So simplifying, once you learn ang proving identities. Let's start with the proving identities. Proving identities is simply you were given an identities, equations, right side is equal to the left side. Sometimes, in proving identities, one side of the equation is complicated. And the other side of the equation, the right side, usually is a simple trigonometric expression. So when you say proving identities, you change the left side into a simpler form, leading to that what is on the right side. Okay? For example, ito number 1 na to. You just want to prove that the left side is equal to 1. Yun lang ang gagawin mo. Ipakita mo lang na right side is equal to the left side. By simplifying the left side, you have to show, by changing it into another form, you have to show that the left side is equal to 1. Teka lang, class may nagpapa-admit. So, yun lang ang purpose niya. Yun lang you have to show. Okay? And one way of doing that, itong simplifying expression we have here, these are tips on what to consider when it comes to proving identities. So, ito yung pwede nyong gawin or ito yung pwede nyong steps in proving identities. These are some tips on how to simplify trigonometric expression, on how to show what to do on the right side, on the left side, to make it as in what is on the left side, on the right side. Okay? Ito, gagawin lang natin dito, gagalawin lang natin yung left side. Ipapakita lang natin na it is equal to 1. Okay? So, ang first step niya dito, express in terms of sine and cosine. Kasi yung sine and cosine, they are the major character sa ating 6 trigonometric functions. Sila yung bida. Si sine and cosine. And if you remember, when it comes to unit circle, si x natin is cosine theta and y natin, y coordinates, is sine theta when it comes to unit circle. When I say x coordinate in the Cartesian plane, if you put the angle in the Cartesian plane or angle in standard position, and then you define the point on the terminal side with respect to the unit circle, ang x coordinates natin becomes cosine theta at ang y natin becomes sine theta. Lesson 19 natin yon. Okay? So, ang sabi dito, express in terms of sine and cosine. So, in other words, pag nakakita ka ng mga different trigonometric functions, when you see sine theta and cosine theta, huwag mo na siyang baguhin. Huwag mo na siya alisin. Huwag mo na siya palitan ng identities. Puro girls yata ang umaten. Andito si EJ. Okay? So, what we have here, we change the second into its reciprocal, 1 over cosine. And we change the cosecant into its reciprocal then, 1 over sine theta. Okay? What is good in proving identities, class? It is a brain exercise. Ang itinuturo niya, class, ay brain exercise. Tinuturo niya yung ating diskarte. Dinedevelop niya na yung critical thinking mo, mathematical ability mo. At the same time, dinedevelop din niya yung decision making. Kasi, when you prove identities, you have to think of what identities you're going to use. At the same time, in your mind, napipicture nyo na what is that changing leading to. Pag nagpalit ka, iniisip mo na rin why you choose these identities to change that expression is because leading to what? Okay? Leading to whatever it is on the right side. So, dinedevelop niya yung decision making mo, critical thinking, mathematical ability mo when you do proving identities. Napakaganda niya talagang brain exercise. Especially kung very complicated na ang given, the right side and the left side, parehas silang complicated, and sabay mo silang ginagalaw, the right side and left side of the identities ay parehas mong ginagalaw, and then you come up with the equal. Right side is equal to the left side. Yun yung pinakamahirap ng problem. So, may encounter nyo uli ito sa college, and may encounter nyo in different types. Ito, simple lang ito nandito, class. This is just for basic fundamental identities. Simple lang ito. So, marami, 24 lahat ang identities. We only have 8 basic identities. And the reason why I'm discussing this to you is gagamitin natin ito sa basic calculus. Okay? Kailangan siya sa basic calculus. Ito kasi yung way. So, changing the second theta will lead us dito. Ito. Cosine theta times cosine theta over 1. Reciprocal of the denominator. The sine theta times sine theta is equal to 1. In other words, ito yung dinatnan niya. Cosine theta, cosine squared theta, and according to identities, that is equal to 1. Therefore, naipakita mo na right side is equal to the left side, 1 is equal to 1. Okay? Ganun lang siya sa kasimple, kasi simple pa lang tayo. Pero there are complicated problems na ang nakaka-enjoy siyang i-solve. Okay? Tip number 2, using appropriate formulas. Using appropriate formulas simply means do not create your own identities. What is the fundamental identities? Yun lang siya. Huwag mo na baguhin, huwag mo dagdagan, huwag mo bawasan kung ano yung sinasabi ng identities. Kasi it is already proven. It is already established. It is already accepted coming from the definition using the unit circle. Okay? Pag sinabing sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta is equal to 1, yan lang ang equal to 1. Kasi sometimes common error yan ng estudyante, nakita niyang sine theta plus cosine theta, inequal to 1 na rin yon. Sine cube theta plus cosine cube theta is equal na rin sa 1 yon. Hindi. Walang sinasabing ganon. Ang sinasabi lang ay sine theta squared, sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta, yun lang ang equal to 1. Okay? Wala nang iba. Or pwedeng baliktad. Cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta is equal to 1. Pwede yun. Okay? Yun ang ibig sabihin ng use appropriate formulas. Kung ano lang yung accepted formulas, yun lang ang gagamitin. Okay? So, dito sa number 1, so itong 1 plus cotangent squared theta, that's an identity. That is equal to cosecant squared theta. And then, ang 1 minus sine squared theta, that's also an identity. And that is equal to cosine squared theta. So, pag may nakita kang identity, you can change that into that form. Pero remember that when you change that into another form or you use the identities, dapat leading to that what is on the right side. Kaya diskarte ang itinuturo ng proving identities. Paano mo diskartehan na ang isang problem? Kasi we can have the same we can have the same steps and come up with equal sides. Right side is equal to left side. Pero magkaiba yung solution natin. Kaya when we say proving identities, step by step yan. Hindi ka pwedeng mag-jump na sabihin mong right side is equal to left side kaagad. Hindi. You have to show it step by step. Ano yung ginawa mong step na susunod? Pinalitan mo siya. O nung pinalitan mo, what happened? Sinimplify mo siya. And then what's the next step? So talagang step by step siya. Showing how you come up na sinabi mong right side is equal to left side. Okay? So, nung change siya na into identities, so ito na siya, cosecant squared theta times cosine squared theta is equal to cotangent squared theta. Kailangan niya ipakita na itong left side na to ay equal to cotangent squared theta. So, anong ginawa niya? Pinalitan niya uli ng identity ang cosecant squared theta. Pinalitan niya ng reciprocal pero naka-square. Okay? So, ang rule lang natin na pwede i-apply for our identities, if you square the right side, i-square mo din ang left side. Okay? So, yun lang ang pwede mong gawin. So, kunyari dito sa ating reciprocal identities, sa reciprocal identities natin, ito, yan. Kapag naka-square, sine squared theta, cosecant squared theta, that's still equal to 1. Kasi 1 squared is still 1. Pagka kinube mo yan, cosine cube theta, secant cube theta, that's still equal to 1. Kasi 1 cube. Basta ang rule natin, whatever you do on the right side, ay gagawin mo din sa right side. Kaya ito, if you want to change this to square, sine square theta, equal yan sa 1 over cosecant square theta. Kahit dito sa quotient identities. Okay? Yun lang ang pwede mong ipalit. So, yung rule natin na kung anong ginawa mo sa right side, yun din ang gagawin mo sa left side. Okay? You need to have to remember the 8 fundamental identities. And some of the engineering students, memorize yan. Kasi you really have to do that. Kasi ang application naman yan, you still need it in calculus, you still need in mga major subjects na engineering, sa physics, kailangan din yun. Kaya, it's better na no need for you to memorize it, pero pag alam mong galing reciprocal, ang reciprocal identities naman, alam mo naman yun eh, kung sino ang reciprocal nino. Diba? Okay. So, pinalitan niya ng 1 over sine squared theta, yung cosecant theta. Ang ating angle ay unknown, so we can use the Greek alphabet. Pwedeng X, pwedeng Y. Basta dapat lang may angle siya, hindi pwedeng wala. Okay? So, nung pinalitan niya na, di nag-equal na ngayon. Cosecant squared theta over sine squared theta. That is equal to cotangent squared theta. Quotient identities yan. Okay? So, yun po, yun. Yun ang ano. Next is number 3, expanding products and factoring expression. 3 and 4. Pagsabayin ko na. These are algebraic manipulation. When you see operation within the given, you do it first. Kasi baka upon doing that operation or doing that simplifying, it will lead you to an identity. Kaya if you see an operation, pag nakakakita ka ng simplifying or operation, you do first the operation before changing that into another form. Bago mo siya palitan ng identities, i-simplify mo muna kung merong operation. Okay? So yung expanding product, ang ibig sabihin lang yan, kung may nakikita kang distributive, applying the distributive property, apply mo muna siya. Para baka mamaya may lumitaw na identities o di mas na-simplify yung answer mo bago ka magpalit ng isang expression. Okay? So, upon doing that, so dinistribute si tangent x times tangent x, tangent squared x, tangent x times cotangent x, tangent x cotangent x. So, upon doing that, ang nangyari sa iyo ay lumitaw na si tangent x, cotangent x, reciprocal yon. Tangent and its reciprocal, the product is equal to 1. Kaya pinalitan siya ng 1. Kasi that is reciprocal identities. A trigonometric function multiplied by its reciprocal, that is equal to 1. And then upon doing that, tangent squared x plus 1, that's an identity. That's equal to secant squared x. Okay? So, ganun siya, class. Okay, so kung may dalawang binomial, number 3, if you have a binomial, multiply mo muna yon. To binomial, multiply mo muna yon. Kasi baka mamaya ay simplify na siya. Upon doing that, so secant x plus tangent x and secant x minus tangent x, that's sum and difference of two squares. So, sum and difference yan of two similar binomial. So, nung minultiply siya, itong kalalabasan niya. Yeah, upon doing that, that's an identity. Secant squared x minus tangent squared x is equal to 1. Kaya, ayun siya. The same way in factoring. Factoring is one way of simplifying expression, ang factoring. You do that kasi baka upon doing the factoring or applying the factoring method, ay may lumabas na identities which is more easier to handle sa pagsosolve. Kaya sabi ko sa inyo, ang proving identities, this is a good brain exercise kasi ang itinuturo niya ay decision making. Nade-develop yung decision making mo, yung diskarte. How to tackle the problem. Yun ang tinuturo. Okay? Pwedeng magkaiba tayo ng solution but we come up with the same answer na prove natin na right side is equal to left side. Kasi diskarte mo yan. Okay? As long as lahat ng move mo ay valid move yun. When we say valid move ay when it comes to mathematical truth ay tama yung mga moves mo. Parang sa chess, di ba? So, dumidiskarte kang sarili, pero every move mo ay tamang move. Kasi may rules tayo doon ng move ng bawat isa. So, you follow the procedure, pero kanya tayo, iba tayo ng diskarte ng kalaban natin. Yun siya. Yun ay tinuturo niya. Turuan ka magdumiskarte ng tama. Okay? So, ito yung given natin. And then may common term siya, sin beta. So, finactor out si sin beta that lead us into this form. Nung finactor out na si sin beta, yun ang lumabas. Cosine squared beta plus sin squared beta, which is an identity that is equal to 1. When we say identity, whatever the angle is, unknown angle yun. Unknown angle. Ma'am, sabi po sa identities, theta, beta po yan. That's the same. Kasi theta represent any angle. Beta represent any angle din. So that is equal to 1. So ni-replace na siya ng 1. So sin beta na lang. So yung this form mo, yun ang sinasabi natin. Yung complicated form mo, changing into a simpler form. Naging simple na lang siya. Naging sin beta na lang siya. Okay? Itong number 5, expressing a sum as one fractional expression. Ano yan? Changing into single fraction. If ang given sa atin ay fraction plus fraction or mixed fraction, you have to simplify that into single fraction, which means LCD. I-apply natin yung natutunan natin sa rational equation. Multiply it by its LCD. Okay? So, kagaya nitong number 1, sin squared x over cosine x plus cosine x. So, it is understood na pag wala siyang denominator, it is understood na 1 ang denominator niya. So, mixed fraction yan. So, changing this into single fraction. So, the LCD is cosine x. Cosine x divided by cosine x is 1. 1 times sin squared x, kaya ayun siya. Sin squared x. Cosine x divided by 1 is cosine x. Cosine x times cosine x is cosine squared x. So, ito na yung single equivalent niya. Single fraction equivalent niya. Parang pag meron tayo, kunyari, 1 and 1/3. 1 and 1/3, i-change natin sa improper fraction. Diba? 3 times 1, 3 plus 1, 4. 4 over 3. 4 over 3 ang equivalent ng 1 and 1/3. And how you do that? Parehas lang nito. Ganun din. Okay? And then sine squared x plus cosine squared x, that is equal to 1 by identities. So, change na natin sa 1 over the denominator. And then 1 over cosine x, that's the reciprocal of cosine x. That is equal to secant x. Ayun na siya. Okay? So, number 2 naman, fraction plus fraction, if the LCD are both the denominator, mag-cross multiplication ka na lang. 1 minus cosine y, 1 plus cosine y. Binomial yan, class. 1 minus cosine y. That's a binomial. 1 plus cosine y. That's also binomial. And they are different. Kaya ang LCD mo is their product. So how do you write the product? Lagyan mo lang ng parenthesis. If the LCD is the product of the denominator, then cross multiplication ka na lang. 1 plus cosine y multiplied by 1 plus 1 minus cosine y multiplied by 1. So, ito yung kinalabasan niya sa numerator. Over the product. Okay? Parang 1/4 plus 1/3. Parang ganon. 1/4 plus 1/3, 7 over 12. Kasi 4 and 3, ang LCD nun, product na nila. So, mag-cross ka na lang. 4 plus 7, 4 plus 3, 7 over 12. Parang ganon ang ginawa natin. 1/4 plus 1/3. Okay? So, in doing that, cosine y at saka negative cosine y, 0 na yon. So, ang natira sa'yo is 1 plus 1, 2 over. And then, you multiply the 2. Yung nasa denominator. And the product is equal to 1 minus cosine squared y. Sum and difference of two similar binomial. And then, 1 minus cosine squared y, that's an identity. And that is equal to sine squared y. And then, pinaghiwalay uli yung dalawa. 2 times 1 over sine squared y. Kasi ba't siya pinaghiwalay? Kasi this is an identity. 1 over sine squared y is the reciprocal of sine cosecant squared y. Kaya 2 cosecant squared y. Nakakasunod po ba? Okay, o try tayo. Anong number po ang gusto dito sa in-text? Turo po, turo. Ano pong number ang gustong isolve? Show that the following will give the value of 1. O, papakita lang natin na equal to 1 siya. Ano pong isosolve? Pili po.
Ma'am, yung 5 po.
Number 5. Okay, number 5. So, ang ating 1 plus tangent squared. 1 plus tangent squared, that is equal to identities yan. Do you have a copy of the identities? Ako, i-memorize ko. Memorize ko ang reciprocal. Memorize ko ang quotient. Ang isa lang memorize ko doon, tangent is equal to sine over cosine. Therefore, cotangent is cosine over sine. Ang Pythagorean identities yon, ito, balikan ko yon ha. Ang Pythagorean identities, for you to memorize it, ang Pythagorean identities, ay tandaan lang na galing siya sa lagi naka-square. Ang to memorize this class ay yung kung sino yung kapartner niya. And matatandaan, makikita nyo when we go to basic calculus, like SEM, sa basic calculus, sila din yung magkakapartner. sa derivative at saka sa integration. Sila din yung magkaka-partner. So, so cosine squared plus sine squared is equal to 1. So, yan ang magka-partner, si sine at saka si cosine. Sa derivative sila din. Derivative ng sine cosine, derivative ng cosine negative sine. So, sila din yung magka-partner. Kaya cosine squared plus sine squared theta is equal to 1. Or kaya sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta is equal to 1. Huwag babaguhin, huwag i-cube, huwag tatanggalin ng squared, yun lang ang identities. Para ma-memorize mo siya, tandaan mo kung sino yung magka-partner at lagi naka-square. Sino yung magka-partner. Next is tangent. Yan, 1 plus tangent squared theta is equal to secant squared theta. Magka-partner yan, dalawang yan. 1 plus tangent squared theta is equal to secant squared theta. Silang dalawa ay yung magka-partner. Okay? Pero dapat, kahit isa lang ang ma-remember mo, 1 plus tangent squared theta is equal to secant squared theta. Isulat mo siya sa papel, paikot-ikutin mo siya kasi baka may lumabas. Kagaya ng ganito. Yung nasa baba niyan, dalawa. Yan. So, sa utak mo, alam mo na ang Pythagorean identities ay 1 plus tangent squared theta is equal to secant squared theta. Sa utak mo, umiikot-ikot na yan. Tatranspose sa kabila si 1, tatranspose sa kabila si tangent. Dapat, pagka-memorize mo yung isang identities, pag inikot mo siya sa utak mo, pag sinabi natin inikot, ay pag transpose mo na siya sa utak mo, ay alam mo yung itsura pa rin niya. Kasi pwedeng hindi palaging 1 plus tangent squared theta ang makikita mo. Hindi palaging ganyan ang makikita mo. Pwedeng ito ang makita mo, secant squared theta minus 1. That is equal to tangent squared theta. Pwedeng yan ang makita mo. Or pwede naman ito makita mo, secant squared theta minus tangent squared theta. Ay, identity siya. That is equal to 1. You see? So, pag nagme-memorize ka ng isang identities, 1 plus tangent squared theta is equal to secant squared theta. Dapat sa utak mo yan, napapaikot-ikot mo na. And tama ka pa rin sa identities kapag nagka-transpose ka. Teka, meron nagpapa-admit. Okay po. So, di ba, bakit siya napakagaling ma-brain exercise? Now, for the third one, ito, balik na rin mo na to para it follows that 1 plus tangent squared theta is equal to secant squared theta. 1 plus cotangent squared theta is equal to cosecant squared theta. 1 plus tangent squared theta is equal to secant squared theta. 1 plus cotangent squared theta is equal to cosecant squared theta. Para matandaan mo itong susunod. Kasi dito tangent, dito naman cotangent. Dito secant, dito naman cosecant. Okay? So silang dalawa naman ang magka-partner. Si cosecant at saka si cotangent. Sa derivative and integration, sila din. Kaya madali naman siyang i-memorize. Okay? So, sana tayo? Number 5. So, number 5, 1 over tangent squared theta plus 1. That is an identity. So, that is equal to that is equal to 1 over 1 over secant squared. Secant squared theta. Theta. Okay? Equal siya sa secant squared theta. Si cotangent squared theta minus 1. 1 plus cotangent squared theta. Yun ang equal sa cosecant. So si cotangent squared theta, hindi yan. Hindi yan identities. Okay? So cotangent squared theta plus 1 minus. So magiging, dapat na-force mo na kung paano siya mag-i-equal to 1. Cotangent squared theta minus 1 is 1 plus cotangent squared theta. Yun ang equal sa cosecant squared theta. So ito, kakopy mo lang to. Tapos, LCD ka. Wait lang class. Cosecant squared theta ay secant squared theta. This is already equal to, sige, copy ko muna to. Yan. So this is equal to, ito'y equal sa cosine theta. Cosine squared ay identities. Pag pinalitan ko to ng cosine squared theta, saan ako papunta? Papalitan ko tong cotangent squared theta ng cosine over sine minus 1. Aba, pinanggalingan na. So ito ay equal sa cosine theta plus 1 over cosine squared. Mahaba yata solution ko, class, ha? Ang cotangent squared theta ay equal sa cosine squared theta over sine squared theta. Nakakasunod ba kayo? Hindi po. Hindi ko din alam saan papunta to eh. Okay. Tapos ay minus 1. Nakalimutan ko ang minus 1. May minus 1 pa yan. So equal to cosine squared theta plus may nagpapa-admit sine squared theta. Kulang to ng steps, class. Inortet ko. Kasi hindi ko alam saan siya papunta. Over minus yun eh. Minus cosine squared theta mali itong problem na to, class. Pagka hindi na mali, squared pala. Minus sine squared. I-reciprocal ko na to, class. Ito sa inyo. Wala akong maling ginagawa. Tangent squared theta plus 1 equal yan sa secant squared theta. Yan, equal yan dyan. Ang 1 over secant squared theta, equal yan kay reciprocal. Cosine squared theta yan. Si cotangent, kasi ito ay plus minus siya, palagay ko plus 2 eh. Si cotangent squared theta minus 1, that is not an identity. Okay? That is not an identity. Ang sabi sa identity, cotangent 1 plus cotangent squared theta. Yun na ang cosecant squared theta. So, ang ginawa ko, pinalitan ko si cotangent ng cosine over sine. Quotient identities. Cosine squared over cosine squared minus 1. So, yun ang pinalit ko sa kanya. So, kinapi ko si cosine squared theta. Then, ito, ang ginawa ko dito ay nag-LCD ako sa denominator, sine squared theta. Ito yun. And then, cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta. Ito yun. Then, binaliktad ko na siya. Kasi 1 over. Okay? So, ito na yung binaliktad ko na. Pero ito ay wala pa ring identities na lumalabas. So, hindi tayo pwede mag-cancel dito sa sine and sine squared. Theta, hindi ka pwede mag-cancel dyan kasi subtraction yan. Okay? Walang pupuntahan yung problem. Hindi natin mapapalabas na equal to 1. Pero kung siya ay class wait lang, may nagpapa-admit. Wala. Kanina tumunog, baka cellphone ko. Kung ito ay magiging 1 plus cosine squared, cosecant squared. 1 plus cosecant squared. 1 plus cosecant squared. Cosine squared plus cosecant squared. Cosecant squared is sine squared. So cosine plus cosecant squared is 1 over. Wala din siya pupuntahan. Kung ito'y papalitan ko ng plus 1, wait lang class kasi mukhang mali yung problem. Plus 1, magiging cosecant squared theta, ito ay magiging yun na nga class. 1 over cosecant squared theta is equal to sine squared theta. Mali nga ang given. Kasi class, eto na tayo sa dulo, di ba? Pagdating dyan, wala na siyang pupuntahan eh. Wala kang makakancel. Wala, papalitan mo na naman siya ng identities. Wala mangyayari, miski palitan mo yan, naka-sine and cosine ka na nga. Mali yung problem. Dapat plus. Kasi pagka naging plus siya, so 1 over secant squared theta, cotangent squared theta plus 1, that is equal to cosecant squared theta. And then, ang 1 over secant squared theta, that is equal to cosine squared theta, reciprocal. And then, ang 1 over cosecant squared theta ay reciprocal uli yan ng sine. O, yan ay equal to 1 na. Cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta, that is equal to 1. O, so, naipakita ng equal to 1. Mali yung given. Okay po? Kasi minsan ganun, class. Minsan mali din ang given kasi nagawa mo na lahat eh. Hindi mo maipakitang equal to 1. So, there's something wrong with the given. Next. Next. Ano po susunod? Meron pa kayong nakikitang papalitan or meron pa kayong nakikitang isosolve? Reduce the following to single circular function. So, ito naman, letter B, ay gagawin mo lang siyang isang expression. Anong gusto nyo itry? 1, 2, 3. Ano po gusto nyo isolve?
Kahit 1 na lang po.
1 daw. 1. Okay, 1. Okay. Paano diskarte natin? Kayo magsabi ng diskarte. So, sin x and cosine x and minus sin x, huwag nang palitan yan. Kasi di ba yun yung sabi dun sa first tip, express in terms of sine and cosine. So, huwag na natin palitan yon. So, ang kalalabasan mo dyan, ang papalitan mo ay si tangent. So, copy ka dito, kopyahin ko na lang, plus. Copy mo yan, palitan mo si tangent. Ano ang ipapalit mo kay tangent? Sige nga, ano ipapalit mo kay tangent? Kasi kasama yun sa diskarte, decision making. Pag nagpapalit ka, see to it na may kapupuntahan yung problem mo. So, ano ipapalit ko kay tangent? Anybody from the class? Anong ipapalit ko kay tangent? EJ, ano ipapalit ko kay tangent? Reciprocal o quotient? EJ, andyan ka ba? Uy, class, hindi pwedeng ako lang. Hindi madedevelop ang critical thinking o ang decision making nyo kung ayaw nyo mag-participate. Class, kumibo kayo or else bye-bye na lang.
Ma'am, sine over cosine po ba?
Okay. Sine over cosine. Huwag yung reciprocal. Kasi kapag reciprocal lang ang pinalit mo, walang pupuntahan yun. Okay, ano next step? Yung numerator, ganun pa din. Kakopy ko siya. Then ito, i-change ko to sa LCD. Kasi nakamix yan eh. Okay? I-change ko siya sa LCD. So, ang lalabas sa akin ay cosine x minus sin x, LCD. So, si cosine x, multiply mo kay 1, cosine x, minus sin x, all over cosine x. Okay? Paano mo malalaman na tama ka? Pag tinakpan mo si sin x, pag si sin x ay tinakpan mo, cosine x over cosine x, that is equal to 1. Pag tinakpan mo naman si cosine x, ang maiiwan sa iyo ay minus sin x over cosine x. Ito yun. So, dapat marunong ka mag-change ng mix into single. Okay? So, ito yung mix mo, 1 minus sin x over cosine x. Change mo yan into mix, into single fraction. So, ito yung equivalent niya, single fraction. So, kitang-kita mo na dito na kapag ikaw ay nag-reciprocal of the denominator, multiplied by the reciprocal nito, cosine x over cosine x minus sine x, ay makakancel na to. Ang matitira na lang sa'yo ay cosine x. Kasi ito ay cancel na. Multiplication lang pwede mag-cancel, class, ha? Cancel na yan. Dito. Bagal. Cancel na siya dyan. Okay po. So, ano tira sa'yo? Cosine x. So, na-reduce mo siya to single circular function. Next. O, dito sa self-assessment. Dito tayo sa transform the left side expression into the one written on the right side. Ibig sabihin, itong left side ang isosolve natin, changing the left side into whatever nandito sa right side. O, pili dyan. Proving na yan, class. Pili po, pili. Ano pong isosolve? Number. Last na to. Number ano po? Class. Girls, sayang ang pag-attend nyo. Kung as simple as asking kung ano gusto nyo isolve ay hindi kayo makasagot.
Ma'am, 4 po.
Number 4. So we're going to show that the left side is equal to 2 cosine x. Okay? 2 cosine x. Sige po, game. Cosine x tangent x plus sine x over tangent x. Ano po ang papalitan ko? Anybody? Ano po ang papalitan ko? Class. Tingnan nyo, hindi kayo makadecide kung ano papalitan. Yung tangent po. Okay, correct. Ano po ang ipapalit ko? Ano po ang ipapalit ko? Reciprocal or quotient? Ano po ang ipapalit ko? Reciprocal or quotient?
Quotient po siguro.
Quotient po. Tama, yun yung mga ganun decision. You have to make that decision. Okay, so pinalitan ko siya ng sine x over cosine x. Plus sine x. Okay? Eh, yung denominator, papalitan ko din.
Opo.
Sine x over cosine x. Okay. Next step. Next step. Next step. Ano po ang gagawin ko? Ito, babaliktarin ko lang yan later di ba? Yung nasa denominator sin x over cosine x, babaliktarin ko lang yan later Ito nga yung nasa numerator, ito ang complicated. Ano po ang next step ko dyan? Mumultiply muna ako bago addition. Okay? So, ang kalalabasan ng numerator ay sin x cosine x sin x. Kasi multiplication over cosine x. Plus sin x. Ito, copy lang yan. Yung denominator, copy lang yan. O, ano na susunod ko dito? Ayan na, minultiply ko na to. Wait lang. Cancel na pala yun, no? Cosine x times second sin x over cosine x. Ay, cancel na po yan. So, ang matitira na lang dito ay sin x. Oo. Kasi meron kang 2 Ay, ulit. So, si cosine x at saka si cosine x, cancel na dito. So, ang natira sa'yo is sin x plus sin x. Okay. So, ayan na yung natira sa'yo. So, ano next step? Pabaliktarin ko na to ngayon. Ano sagot ng numerator? Sin x plus sin x. Sin x plus sin x.
2 sin x po.
Okay, 2 sin x. And then, babaliktarin ko itong denominator. Cosine x over sin x. Tapos na po ba tayo? Tapos na po ba?
Hindi pa po.
Bakit po?
Ay,
Tignan mo maigi.
akala ko po yung time. Sorry po.
Hindi. Tapos na tayo ng pagsasolve dito. Are we done? Pinakita na ba natin na 2 cosine x?
Ma'am, hindi pa po. Pwede
Bakit?
pa po bang makancel yung sin x po sa...
Opo,
Okay, ayun.
multiplication yan Nagka-cancel lang tayo sa multiplication, ha? And tatandaan na kapag ikaw ay nagka-cancel, kaya ka nagka-cancel, ang common nila is 1. Okay? Kasi nakakalimutan yun Nagka-cancel pero hindi nilalagyan ng 1. So ito ay pwedeng i-cancel. Kasi multiplication Sa multiplication lang pwede mag-cancel, ha? So cancel yan. Yung sin x tsaka sin x. Okay? So ano naiwan sa'yo?
2 sin x po.
Ano naiwan sa'yo?
2 sin x.
Anong 2 sin x?
Joke lang.
Na-cancel na nga ang sin x Tingnan mo
Ay.
maigi.
2 cos x po.
2 cosine x. Yun ang naiwan sa'yo. Na-cancel na ang sin Diba? So, ang naiwan sa'yo, 2 times cosine x. 2 cosine x. O, di napakita mo na. Ayan na, Okay po. O, isa pa. Sige, isa pa. Bago tayo mag-bell. Ano po ang gusto?